Hello, hello, hello. It's another beautiful Wednesday evening and we get to meet right here on your number one agricultural program, Kenya's Gold, to learn so much about all matters agriculture. And today the show is going to be super duper interesting because we are not just going to be in Kenya, also we are going to go all the way to South Africa, courtesy of Nouvelle Blooms Limited and Truth Black Agri House, to learn so much about agri-technology in South Africa. Also, Tara niko na story. Hadithi. Njoo. But I'll be telling you that story a bit later on. Thank you so very much for making time to join us on the program. My name is Violeta Ngina, or the International Mkulima.
Asante sana mtazamaji kwa kukubali kujiunga na sisi. Karibu sana katika kipindi hiki cha Kenya's Gold, darasa kwa wakulima wengi. Iwapo ndio mwanzo unajiunga na sisi kwa mara ya kwanza kabisa, taifa la Kenya na mataifa ya nje, basi karibu sana. Shikilia kalamu yako, karatasi, andika, tekeleza baadaye. Tunakuenzi, tunakupenda sana kama mwanafunzi wetu, nikijua kwamba utaibuka mshindi kesho ili ulishe taifa la Kenya kwa vyakula ya ainati bila wasiwasi. Karibu sana na tuende kazi hadi kule mwisho.
All right, and I know people are very ready to go to South Africa and learn a thing or two about agriculture. But before we go, Tere nilikwambia niko na story of how I lost my bags when I got to South Africa. I teased that story last year and someone told me, "Ngina na huku tumalizia your story." So I'm here to finish it.
Okay.
So what happened? We leave Kenya, super excited. It was around 9 p.m. thereabouts, ready to go to South Africa. Najua mimi ni mdem. So suitcase yangu nimepiga maluku, nimepack maluku, najua nitafika South Africa hivi niwatishie na maluku zangu. So we get there at around 1 a.m. in the morning. And then you know the usual procedure, unatoka kwa ndege, then you go to that place there where you're waiting for the bags. So we are psyched up, we are there. Everyone is taking their bags. Me yangu haijafika. And then everyone has taken. And then now one bag is left and it's not mine. But that bag was kind of looking like mine. So the obvious assumption was mwenye hii bag aliconfuse akachukua yangu. Okay? And ameacha yake. And it's not my bag. Washa inaanza kushikwa na depression, anxiety. I'm like, "Ooh, what is this? Nani ameniroga surely?" So what happened? We had to go kwa watu huko, the people who work there. Uzuri ilikuwa na phone number. And then we called the guy. He had already gone all the way to Pretoria with my bag.
Kule kuna wizi.
And I'm at the airport. And Pretoria to the airport is like 45 minutes away.
Let me ask. Yeye baadaye alikubali kurudisha ama alipita nazo kama?
He kept saying, "No, this is my bag. This is my bag." So he doesn't want to go to the boot and check that he has taken my bag. So the more he's refusing, the more they are driving. And it's 1 a.m. and Ngina doesn't have her bag and she has gone to shoot Kenya's Gold. I'll be finishing that story a bit later on, but first to South Africa to learn so much about poultry farming and how they make their animal feeds. Take a look. Sondela, I know it has brought back a lot of memories. Now here where we are, this place is called Sondela Animal Feeds, and they major in making animal feeds for chicken, the layers. So while we're here, we'd like to learn so much about what are the main ingredients when you're making layers feeds, and also the proportions, how they get their raw materials, how they offtake their raw materials, and finally the processes that happen in there until the raw materials are finished products for the chicken to consume. That and more will be learned on this feature starting now. All right, so here we are with Mr. Mr. Henry at Sondela Animal Feeds. Hi, Mr. Henry.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Dumela.
Dumela.
Oh, great. Thank you so much for having us here. And just on a lighter note, help us understand how you came up with the name Sondela for this fantastic farm.
One of the owners they were busy vaccinating the chickens, and one of the ladies that was helping called the chickens closer. She called him Sondela, Sondela. And when he asked her, what's the name? And then she said, no, it's come closer. So that would be a perfect name to call a farm, yeah.
Great. So you deal entirely with making animal feeds, chicken feed.
Chicken feed, layer feed, yes.
Layer feed specifically.
Yes.
And I want you to take us through the process from the moment you're getting your raw materials and everything that happens in here until we have our final product. But you can just start by telling us what are the main ingredients when it comes to making chicken feeds and layer feeds.
Okay, so your main ingredients is basically maize, yellow maize, and then it get added soya, full fat soya, sunflower, and wheat and bran.
Right.
Okay, so that's your 5 basic raw materials that it consists of, yeah.
Right. So here, do you grow your own feeds or you collaborate with farmers to get the raw materials?
No, we collaborate with farmers in the area, around the business, around the farm. We're not big enough to grow our own maize, so we collaborate with farmers around the area. Yeah.
Great. So take us through the process. Once we have raw materials here, where do they come in from? What is the first step? And all the way until we're ready.
So basically, from the entrance point, we are very strict on the biosecurity. If everybody who works here, we have to come in, adhere to the biosecurity rules by showering in, getting clean overalls and clothing and etc., and start working, and then leave it inside when you leave. So with the trucks that brings in the raw materials, because we don't know where it comes from, other farms, etc. So it gets sprayed very heavily with the chemicals to clean all the bacteria and viruses, etc. over the weigh bridge. From there, it goes into the intake, where it gets dumped into the intake pit. Now, we are very proud to say that we handle our raw materials only once. So it comes from the truck where it gets tipped. It never sees sunlight again until it's a final product into the cages, to the chicken houses. So
why is it very important for you to make sure there's minimal handling of the raw materials?
Because of the biosecurity risk, we would like to keep it as closed as possible, to not get contaminated with anything from the outside. So if it's enclosed, I mean, we believe then there's nothing that can actually get to it to make sure that it ought to contaminate it. And it's for us, it's important because it's for our farmers that we produce. We don't want to put their business to risk, and their chickens to risk. So for us, it's very important to look after our customers as well.
Right. So also I notice with every entry point, we have the footpath that everyone has to step on when they're coming in. Maybe you can just shed more light on what the ingredients are for getting that, and how often do you change it to make sure that it's working perfectly?
The main idea of having a footbath at every entrance is because we are in nature. We cannot put it in a bubble and keep all wild birds from as much as we try to keep it away from the business. It's literally impossible. So if the workforce is walking outside to specific stations or that where they are stationed, and they need to come into the factory or from outside to inside, it's very important to make sure that they do disinfect their shoes, so it doesn't bring something from outside inside, and the possibility of contaminating something inside the factory. So those food baths gets cleaned at least twice a day. So it gets cleaned, new chemicals to disinfect.
And there's also the weigh bridge here where we're seeing trucks getting in. So the trucks, just help us understand which trucks are going through the weigh bridge.
Okay, so basically every raw material that we use, and that's not just the 5 big ones, salts, and everything that we use gets weighed in to make sure it's a basic stock control method to weigh in what you actually get in and what is actually going out.
So when we go here where the takeoff is happening, for example, if we have our maize here, I can see one of the trucks is about to offload some maize. Just take us through the process of what happens after it has been offloaded.
Okay, so once it's been offloaded, it goes into a pit, we call it, with some augers inside. which take it on the route to the big holding silos. Now, on the route to that, it goes through a sieve, which basically split it from impurities, which is some cobs, maybe some sticks and leaves, chaff, maize chaff or whatever. It gets split from that, and then the raw maize goes into the big silos, and chaff and all the wastage, if I can call it that, is going separately into two bags.
Right. So is that waste later on recycled? Like I can see we have a big portion of it in a white sack. Can it get other uses after?
Yes. It actually, we've got some local pig farmers that come and pick it up from us, and they mix it into their rations of feed. So it is quite, you will never say, but we've tested it before, and it's quite high in protein value. So they can make good use of it.
All right. So when raw materials are getting in here, even if it's that maize, are there any tests that you do on it just to check if the raw materials you're getting are in good condition?
Yes. It goes through a whole process. Before the truck gets offloaded, samples is taken, moisture test has been done, all sorts of tests has been done to make sure that it is first grade material that we use in the maize.
Right. So for example, that maize, what is the correct moisture content that you expect from it? And in case it doesn't reach that level, do you take it a step further to dry it yourself, or that becomes rejected?
It depends on the level of moisture. So allowed moisture is a 12.5% moisture. If it gets higher, then obviously you discuss it with the silos or wherever it comes from, because it needs to dry out a little bit. You always have the risk of mold growing on wet maize. We are in the fortunate position that we don't have that much holding capacity, so our maize goes through the silos, in and out the silos quite frequently. So, and the silos get cleaned quite frequently. So we don't have that risk. But a very high content of moisture in your maize, it pushes down your protein in your maize, which makes it very difficult for us to use actually, right, because then we get a lower grade of product that we send out to our customers.
Right. So on top of that, do you probably check for aflatoxin in maize? And is that maybe a common incidence in maize around here?
It is in our area. It's not that common, but we do send it out to labs for testing, right, to make sure that the levels, it's not too high on the aflatoxins. And then we need to speak to obviously our formulators to make sure that we have the correct substance in the feed to block the toxins.
Right, great. So you've talked to us about the 5 major raw materials that are required when it comes to making your layer feeds, and you've said we need the yellow maize. We also need the sunflower, right?
Sunflower oil cake, yes.
Sunflower oil cake, soya as
oil
well.
Cake, yes.
Soya oil cake, and we also need the wheat bran.
Wheat and bran, yes.
Wheat and bran, and then finally
full fat soya.
Right. So you can tell us of the different elements that we have here. What nutritional value do they provide to the chicken? Which one is serving energy purposes? Which one is serving protein purposes? Which one is vitamins, calcium? Just help us understand each when it comes to nutritional benefits.
Okay. So your maize is mainly your energy factor, and then sunflower and your wheat and bran is your fiber, and then you get your protein from your soya and your full fat soya.
Right.
Yeah. So calcium is not really part of one of those 5. So you'll have to add some limestone to.
Right. So how do you make sure also you're getting your portions correctly? Because I believe the chicken in different stages need different levels of the different nutrients.
Yes.
So how do you get that correctly? And you can take us through the stages from when it's very young to maturity.
Okay. So
yeah.
So we make use of formulators. So animal feed formulators and nutritionists. So they look at what is the availability of raw materials, and they actually formulate a ration that is with the best nutritional value for that specific stage of the chicken, if it's a day old or point of lay or very old chicken. So they make sure that there's the correct amount, and they send us obviously the formulation, and by those calculations that they make, that is the the formula that we use to make the rations.
Right. Do you feel like maybe, I know a lot of farmers are formulating their own feeds in different parts of the world. Do you think that sometimes they put themselves in a certain risk of not getting the proportions correctly, and that can affect the overall production of their chicken?
I'm sure it depends on the education of the farmer. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of farmers that went to university and they actually formulators. I mean, they're nutritionists, and they can do a good ration with very good nutrition value at maybe a lower cost that we can do it because they do it themselves. And then there's other farmers that maybe go. I'm not sure. So if you look at mainstream farmers that's just at home and they get from this and they get from that and they mix it together, yes, there's a possibility that you could do more harm than good.
Right.
Yes.
So if I am a farmer and I have bought chicken feeds, right, and I want to verify that the proportions that have been labeled there are actually there in the animal feed, how does that process look like? Are they allowed to do that? And do you even encourage farmers to do that?
I would certainly encourage farmers to do that. No, definitely I would. I mean, we are obligated to actually put in a label in if there's a small farmer that's buying feed from us in bags, we actually put a label in, and they are more than welcome to take a sample to any lab and let it be tested to make sure that what we say on that label is actually in there.
All right. Maybe you can also talk to us about some of the common mistakes that you've probably seen farmers make when it comes to animal feeds, and any advice that you can give us moving forward.
Some of the common mistakes that I've seen on farmers is because of a cost saving, they would give less feed and make sure that the troughs are completely empty before they feed again for the day. Where I would rather say make sure that they get ad-lib. They get enough feed so that the troughs, there's still a little bit in the trough when they do the second feed, which means that those chickens have enough during the day. A lot of farmers would like to save some costs, and then your chickens get lighter in weight, and they don't produce that much because obviously they need energy to produce. So that is one of the most common factors. And I'll say second one is not testing the water. A lot of farmers say we've got borehole water, so it must be clean. And then it's definitely not clean. And then there's all sorts of parasites and the chickens is not healthy enough. So test the water. Make sure you test the water. Take a water to a lab, get your vet out, get someone out to test the water for you or take it to a lab and make sure that it's clean. And there's a lot of good products, which is natural product that you can use in your water. Make sure the lines are clean, water is clean for the chickens to drink, and that those two things will sort out a lot of the problems.
Right. So just don't assume because the water is clear, it's fit for consumption of the chicken.
Yes.
All right. Now you've touched on something very important. A lot of farmers will want to save on cost because we know how crazy cost of feeds is driving farmers. But you being in this space for quite a long time now, what advice would you give them when it comes to managing animal feeds, saving up on some money, and then for them to remain in business? Sometimes a farmer will tell you, it's like, I'm not making any profits with this chicken farming. All my money is going in feeds, and they want to give up and get out of this. So what do you think we can do about that?
Yeah, I think one of the main things that the guys can have a look at is, do your chickens have the correct feed for the correct age? And then I would say the second one would be make sure they have enough feed to eat, because they usually tend to give less feed, but less feed means less eggs, maybe smaller eggs. So if you have enough feed, that chicken will serve you well. She will produce if she gets the correct feed and the correct amount of feed, and she will serve you. And then you need to really calculate the amount of eggs you get and the amount of feed you give, the grams of feed she eats every day versus the amount of eggs she gives you.
Right.
And then it looks like you're not making money because I have to give more feed. But once you get more feed, there's more eggs.
Right.
Definitely.
Does that bring the context of record keeping is very important for a chicken farmer, because
very important.
just sensitize us on that, emphasize on the importance of record keeping if you're to make profits from this business.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely. it's crazy actually to think how much record keeping you have to do. I mean, you need to count those eggs every single day, make sure that, to check, to get your percentage, your production percentage, because that would tell you obviously if there's something wrong underlying with the chickens, if they start going down in the production, or if you are on par. So it's very, very important to do your record keeping.
Right. So how many times do you feed your chicken here in a day?
Twice.
What time and what time?
Well, early in the morning is a good time, by 7 o'clock.
Is there a particular reason why early in the morning, 7 o'clock is a good time? Why not 8 o'clock? Why is 7 the, good time?
It depends on season, obviously, and on your lighting program, because you need to have a proper lighting program as well. They need a certain amount of hours which is completely dark, or very low, so you force them to sleep so that they can actually produce the eggs, because they produce it at night.
Right.
And then obviously once they wake up, they need to eat, and they wake up early. But if the lighting program keeps them calm and relaxed, they don't wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. So then it's a good time, and then that gives them enough time during the day to make sure they eat enough, and then around 4 o'clock you give them the second feeding.
Right. Talk to us about the impact of technology when it comes to poultry sector, animal feed sector. How has technology really changed this space?
I think with technology, it fine-tunes the whole process from making food all the way from producing eggs, from growing a chicken all the way to producing eggs. Having technology will enhances your whole farming. It makes things faster. It makes things that you less wastage. In your bigger houses where most of the stuff is automated, you can really specifically set the amount of feed that the chickens get. So it makes a big difference.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Henry, for speaking to us. Maybe if you can give a parting shot to the young people, what can you tell them about agriculture, and if this is a lucrative space to get into?
I don't know. A lot of people think about lucrative. No, you get it. There's a sense of satisfaction that money cannot buy. It's that satisfaction of building something from scratch as and giving life to other people, because chickens means eggs, which means a lot of protein for youngsters that's doing sports, etc. So farming, you mustn't do it for the money. You mustn't do it for the money. You must do it for the love of working with the animals, being in the nature, and producing something for future generations.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Henry, for speaking to us and welcoming us here.
It's a pleasure.
Na bila shaka ni makala mazuri kutoka Afrika Kusini. Najua labda hukuona, lakini ndevu zake kwanza zina
beard gang.
Nianze kufikiria.
Wewe bado usikize mambo ya kuku unaangalia.
Ngoja, si wanaume pia. Sasa hata wewe labda ungeona nywele ungefikiria nafaa kuwa na nywele ndefu kama hiyo, lakini kubwa zaidi ambacho ametaja ni ule utashi ama passion. Kwanza tanguliza utashi badala ya kuangalia hela. Lakini Kenya hilo lipo kweli, kwa sababu kwenda ikawa ngumu kidogo. Kuna msemo ambao unasema kwa Kiswahili kwamba wale waliobebwa mgongoni ni ngumu sana wafahamu ugumu wa safari. Sasa watajua sana. Hivyo basi nadhani anapotamka hivyo utajua kwamba yeye amesafiri. Sasa anafahamu ugumu wa safari na utashi ambao unachangia kwake ni kufanikisha hilo. Kubwa pia ni kuhusiana na vile vyakula ambavyo amevitaja kule, kisha akataja kitu kikubwa kuhusiana na usafi.
Yes, that is key. And basically what they're trying to show us is hata wakitengeneza chakula cha kuku, come on now. Wakitengeneza, I'll say that one more time. Wakitengeneza chakula cha kuku, there is very minimal human interaction. Yani contact.
Hata mimi nasema Kiingereza.
Ndio. Yeah. So hakuna ile venye unaonanga when we are making feeds unakata hapa and then wewe mwenyewe unaishika unaipeleka to the next point, you know, and then wewe ndo utaipack pia pale kwa gunia. So if you can see, all those processes are pretty much automated, and that's the power of technology, and it's part of also the biosecurity measures, just to ensure that we are making sure that what we're giving our animals is clean air, 100%.
Kabla nikupe nafasi umalizie ile hadithi, kuna jambo ambalo huona mara nyingi sana wakati tunatembea kwa wakulima, utapata kwamba yeye abadilishi baada ya siku mbili.
Oh yeah, the food bath. Yes, they change it religiously after twice every day. So they do it every day, 2 times a day.
Okay.
And they're very strict on that. All right. So with that, we are taking our first break, but there's still a lot more that we do have in store for you. Now remember, when we're talking about poultry farming here in Kenya, according to a report by the Ministry of Agriculture, Kenya has a deficit of about 5 billion eggs every year. The demand is at 9 billion eggs, and we're only able to produce about 4 billion eggs. So we will be joined by an expert after this break who will be shedding more light on what really is the pain point in the poultry sector here in Kenya, and what can we do to make sure that wakulima wanapata animal feeds vizuri and we increase our production. Lakini kama kawaida, before we take a break, we do have a farm joke question of the day. Acha nifiche answer. Copy. The question is, I fly without wings and cry without eyes.
Okay.
What am I? I fly without wings and I cry without eyes. Yeah, feel free to start sending in your guesses. Yeah. Ni kitu tu iko hata hapa nje.
Okay.
Yeah, hata hapa nje. I've given you a clue.
Okay.
All right, start sending in your guesses and also any questions that you do have regarding poultry farming in Kenya. Our SMS line is 22422. We'll see you after this break with a lot more right here on Kenya's Gold.